Are you a mid-career manager hoping to elevate your career to senior management? Do you feel your business skills could use a boost? Are you interested in a top program? Well, today's fantastic interview with the Assistant Dean of MIT Sloan's part-time and full-time MBA programs for executives is really a must listen.
Welcome to Admission Straight Talk, the podcast dedicated to graduate admissions and helping you approach the application process thoughtfully and successfully. Your host is Accepted's founder and world-renowned admissions guru, Linda Abraham. At Accepted, our mission is to get you to that unforgettable moment when you read your acceptance email and shout, "Yes, I'm in!" Confident you'll be attending the perfect program to help you launch the career of your dreams.
Welcome to the 563rd episode of Admission Straight Talk. Thanks for joining me today. Before I dive into today's interview, I want to invite you to download ACE the EMBA, Expert Advice for the Rising Executive. This free guide will complement today's podcast and give you suggestions on how to choose the right EMBA program for you, how to differentiate yourself from your competition in a positive way, and present yourself effectively as a future business leader who will bring credit to any program that accepts you. Download ACE the EMBA at accepted.com/ACE EMBA. That's ACEEMBA. Now we're going to examine two fantastic options for mid-career rising executives at MIT Sloan. MIT Sloan's Executive MBA program, which has a more typical part-time MBA structure, and the MIT Sloan Fellows program, which is a full-time immersive executive MBA program. And we're going to focus more on the more traditional one just because of deadlines. But Johanna Hising DiFabio, Assistant Dean of MIT's Executive MBA program and Sloan's Fellows program, is our guest today. Johanna worked in business after earning her undergraduate degree from Ithaca College in 2000. She came to MIT Sloan as Associate Director of Student Life and Learning in 2010, became Director of MIT's EMBA program in 2014, and added the Sloan Fellows program to her responsibilities in 2017, becoming Assistant Dean in 2018. So, Johanna, welcome back to Admissions Straight Talk.
Linda, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about my programs.
Great. Okay, good. Can you start by providing an overview of both the MIT EMBA and the MIT Sloan Fellows program?
Absolutely. So the Sloan Fellows MBA program is a over 90-year-old program. Often we talk about this actually as being the first executive degree program that came to the US and the world. So very exciting program to lead. It is over 70-ish% international. So people move their lives. If they have families, they move their families and spend an entire year immersed earning an MBA or an SM degree, either in management or in management of technology. And they're a very tight-knit community. And on the EMBA side, it's 14 years old. I was part of the founding team of the EMBA. That's why I came to Sloan. And like you shared, it's a little longer. So it's 20 months. And we call it an executive schedule, meaning that they come to campus every 2 to 3 Fridays and Saturdays. We have some executive modules to give them a little bit more immersion here at MIT every 6 months. And they're working full time. So they're learning and working. And, the expectation is that they all have some form of general management experience to both be able to tack on the learnings to their previous experience, as well as when they go back to the workforce or on Monday go back to work, are able to have the responsibility to actually use what they're learning in their workplace.
Wow. Okay, great. So you mentioned the MS and the MBA as an option. I think that was for the Sloan Fellows program, right? Is there a difference? What is the difference?
Right. So, actually on the Sloan Fellow side, we sometimes have people who already have MBA degrees, so they're looking for a different degree for that reason. But I would say mostly people get the MS degrees if they're interested in doing a thesis and doing a deep dive in a particular topic. So they have to do a thesis in order to get the MS.
Got it. Okay. Now, the obvious difference between the two programs is that the EMBA is a part-time program and takes longer, as you said. The Sloan Fellows program is full-time, immersive, and in residence. What are some of the additional elements that distinguish them?
The Sloan Fellows program has much more of an international community, although a lot of our EMBAs are born outside of the US or have international experience that they can draw from. I think the biggest difference is that our Sloan Fellows program has core in the summer, and then they have one core class in the fall and one core class in the spring, but are otherwise really able to create the curriculum and the learning experience that they're hoping to get while they're in this program. On the EMBA side, it's what we call a lockstep curriculum. So we're basically telling them what core classes they will be taking. The benefit of the EMBA is that they're working while they're doing the degree. So the curriculum is very much designed with that in mind. So it's action learning. They're applying what they're learning in the classroom to their organization. And that creates very quick feedback loops. I mean, research also talks a little bit about sort of what's the time between learning something and then being able to apply it, and that making the content more sticky. And so from that perspective, the EMBA has that benefit, right? So often people will ask me, Joe, which one should I pick? And, it really depends on their personal situation. Can they take a year off? Do they want to continue working? Do they want a general management degree? Or on the Sloan Fellow side, do they want sort of a general management degree, but be able to go deeper in one particular area? There's still some electives on the EMBA side.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah.
But not as many as on the Sloan Fellow side.
Got it. And I assume they're later in the program also.
Correct. Well, actually, we just finished 4 days of January executive electives. It's when we invite not just our students, but our alumni back to campus, and they get the opportunity to do electives. So for our first year EMBAs, that's just, 3 months after they started the program.
All right, good. Now, MIT is, of course, famous for its innovative culture and product results. How does this strong emphasis on innovation play out in each of the two programs?
Yeah, we sometimes kid around that don't drink the water in Cambridge because you will get bitten by the entrepreneurship bug or have some innovative idea. It's really in everything that we do. It's very much also, if you think about who is attracted to MIT and who comes here, challenging the status quo, wanting to make this world a better place is very much sort of who the people are that come to my programs. But it's, of course, also embedded in the content that they receive and the tools that they learn while they're here. And it's, we teach them about entrepreneurship. And the reason we think it's so important is because in today's world where things are changing so quickly, we need to be agile. We need to be learning from our customers really quickly and be able to adapt products and new businesses accordingly. And so whether you're an entrepreneur sort of going out to do your own thing or within a large organization, and are doing intrapreneurship, we think this is a really important skill and mindset that our students have as they go through the program. And as they leave, of course.
Right. Now, is it something that, MIT consciously tries to develop in its, nurture, develop, bring out, increase in its students? Or is it something that you kind of think students are going to bring to campus and then just kind of using their own innate talents add to the curriculum?
Yeah, I would say a little of both, to be honest. What I always find so interesting about the students that come here, they've all been successful already in their own rights. And so in some cases, they're coming here, yes, to learn general management, science, and tools and frameworks. The reason to learn those sometimes is to sort of make sure that their gut instincts so far have been on track. And so it's as much confirming that what they've been doing in the past is the right way of doing it as it is learning new ways of doing whatever work it is that they're doing. And so I would say it's as much our students are coming in with an innovative mindset as it is us teaching in the classroom new ways of doing it.
So it's both. Okay, great. Is sponsorship important in terms of like, obviously it's nice if a student is sponsored, that's great. It's great for all parties, but is it important? Is it recommended? Is it required? Or is it just a nice to have, but strictly optional?
I think, Linda, you said it right. I mean, who wouldn't like to have it?
Yeah, exactly.
So from that perspective, but from an admissions perspective, we don't use whether someone is sponsored or not as part of our admissions criteria by any stretch of the imagination. We do think about sponsorship in two forms. There's the financial aspect, and then there's the time aspect. And the financial aspect, we don't look at that as part of the admissions process, though, of course, it alleviates a huge financial burden for the student. On the time component, requirement. It is a requirement, right? If you're a Sloan Fellow, you have to be here for a year, and we do want your companies to really be releasing you of your day-to-day duties so that you can be fully immersed in your courses and the MIT ecosystem. And on the EMBA side, we don't want you to be pretending to be sick or whatever it may be every second or third Friday. We want them to be engaged. And actually, because it's such an action learning curriculum, we want the companies to be excited about the opportunity for their employee to be coming to campus and experimenting within their organization with what they're learning.
Right. Yeah, you really need that kind of support. The time support you definitely need. Also from family.
Absolutely. Family is an important stakeholder. We want you to be thinking about all the stakeholders you have in your world that will either need to be picking up more things at home. You may need to step out of some of the volunteering work you're doing while you're in these programs. So yes, while they learn about stakeholder mapping and so forth in the program, we would like them to do some of that before they start.
Sounds good. All right. You talked a minute ago about the MIT ecosystem and the MIT community, which is fantastic. And there's the surrounding Cambridge community. How much mixing, if any, takes place among MIT Sloan MBA and MIT EMBA and the Sloan Fellow students, or just regular MIT MBA students?
Yeah. So we think of this place as one Sloan. We have a portfolio of programs, whether it's pre-experience, the 2-year MBA, or, my executive degree programs. And we put effort into ensuring that they have some form of interaction, whether that's the student life office putting on events that are at times that could make it possible for all of our students to go. So that's more on the social side. Of course, all the clubs are available to all of our students. That's a way that they interact. And then we have a student senate, which is our student governing board, where all of our programs have representation, including my programs. And then, of course, it's also in the classroom. Now, that's perhaps a little bit less accessible to my EMBAs, given that they're working. But, that doesn't stop some of them from still going to class and taking electives with our full-time students, including some MIT students who may, take some of our classes.
Okay, great. Let's turn more to the admission side of things. Now, the January 25th deadline for the Sloan Fellows program will have passed by the time this show airs. So I'm going to focus most of my admissions questions on the EMBA admissions process, which has several more rounds for the 2024 entering class. Before we turn to that, let's say I'm thinking seriously or considering or planning to apply to the Sloan Fellows program for the next cycle, which will start in summer 2025, correct?
That's right.
Right. What should I be doing now and next fall to prepare myself for a successful application?
Yeah, great question. I think you want to really be thinking about why you're doing this and what do you want to do with it, and sort of plan accordingly. Start doing some research about what's available at MIT. Start having conversations with maybe people in your community that have been through the program or been to MIT to better understand what it is that this program can do for you. Of course, having conversations with our admissions team or attending some of our recruiting events is something I highly recommend. And then you're sort of thinking about, how do I get my life in order to move to Cambridge for a year? And how do I prepare myself for the academics of MIT? And that's both from English is not my first language. And
you would never know it, by the way.
I've spoken English for many, many years, but thank you. And so for a lot of our students, as well as our faculty, actually, English is not our first language. And so it's important to be able to follow along with, anyone who's speaking, even someone with an accent, because I think that's actually the hardest part, is when we have students in the classroom whose English is not their first language, and then the faculty members also doesn't have English as their first language. And so that's when the challenge actually comes in. So practicing English as much as possible, and then also ensuring that you have the math background.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great answer. Now, let's go through the different elements of the EMBA application. Again, we're going to focus now on the executive MBA and discuss their purpose. There's the 7 short essays, the employment history and a resume, 3 letters of recommendation, transcript, organizational chart. Sometimes applicants kind of think that, I don't know, admissions officers just feel like giving them some work, some challenge, whatever, maybe throwing darts at a dartboard. What's the purpose behind those things? And maybe a little bit on the different essays also.
Sure. I will say that we're constantly looking to improve our process. And so we actually increased the number of essays this year. But if you really sort of dissect what we did, is we took the statement of purpose, which is what we used to have. It was a 500-word essay, and actually moved it to 4 essays, only asking for 100 words each. And why are we doing this? It's because we want to be more transparent with our applicants as to what it is we're trying to learn from them, as well as make it easier for our application readers and our interviewers to find the specific information that we're looking for. So, the questions around general management experience, principal leadership, what goals do you have to coming to this program, and why is now the right time for you to do the program? All of those are typically questions you would have answered in the statement of purpose. And now we're just asking you to sort of provide us with those, in a very succinct way, provide us
Very
with those.
succinct.
Right. That's a little bit the challenge, right?
Right.
We want our students to really be honing that skill of being succinct. And then the 3 other essays that we have, leading in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and innovation and impact. Those are essays we've had in the past. And we find that we get some really interesting, it aligns with our mission, and aligns with what we're trying to do in this program and what we're hoping that students walk away with. So that's why we ask those essay questions. And it's all really about trying to understand, what has your work trajectory been so far? What have you done in terms of leading others and leading innovation and challenging the status quo? And so we do that through understanding your employment history, having a resume, seeing an organizational chart, and having other people who know you professionally be able to recommendations, providing us with insight into who you are as an individual and as a leader.
Okay, great. Now, a couple of follow-up thoughts. One, I think Mark Twain once said that he would have written a shorter letter, but he didn't have enough time. So there is a challenge in being succinct. Okay. I probably paraphrased that, but it was something along those lines. And I think everything fits together really well in terms of actually, providing different information, like a puzzle piece. I've many times likened applications to jigsaw puzzles. Whether you don't want to duplicate information, you want it all to fit together and really present a picture of the applicant.
Absolutely.
And I think, between the different questions and the different elements of the application, you pretty much do that. The one thing that doesn't quite fit for me is the organizational chart. MIT, I think, is one of the few, if not the only program that asks for an organizational chart. So what is the purpose of the organizational chart? And what about people in very flat organizations, which I assume you have many applicants that are in?
Linda, I'm so glad you asked this. I was actually thinking about this recently because when I first came here, I came from the private sector, and it was one of the things I asked to have included in applications after the first round. And it's since trickled into a lot of the other applications that we do. And the reason we do it is because it gives us a sense of where they're at in their organization. How far are they from the CEO? What kind of titles do their peers have? And who reports into them? And we would never make a decision on an individual solely based off an organizational chart, right? But like you said earlier, this is all about creating a little bit more understanding of a piece of their puzzle. And we expect and there's also a place, I believe, for the organizational chart where they can explain a little bit, what their organization's like. And we have everything from entrepreneurs of very small organizations all the way to, more than 100,000 people in an organization. And so we are very adept at understanding how to read an org chart. And it's another data point and a way for us to understand sort of their scope of work.
Okay. Level of responsibility. Sure.
Yeah.
What makes an application to the MIT Sloan EMBA program jump off the page? I don't mean fall off the page. I mean jump off the page in a positive way.
Yeah. I reviewed a couple applications a couple of weeks ago. So the ones that really jump off the page are extremely passionate about the work that they do, the difference that they want to make in the world, how they think this degree is going to help them get there, and are willing to show us who they are authentically and have some great stories. It's clear that they've put a lot of work into this. So I think there's not one thing. I think the more they can, well, generic answers is not what we're looking for. Maybe not.
And that kind of leads to my ChatGPT question. Are you at all concerned about people using ChatGPT or its role in the application process?
The short answer is no. I'm
Okay.
not. Because,
long answer?
on the one hand, I would say, admissions advisors have been around for a very long time. And so while I still, in my heart, believe that admissions advisors and the human is going to provide way better support for an individual.
I agree with you.
I think ChatGPT is a resource, and even as a school, we need to embrace it. Our EMBAs and our Sloan Fellows are very busy people that need to be learning how to be more efficient at the work that they do. More is being expected of them. And so ChatGPT is a reality of the world that we live in today. So pretending like it's not there or that people aren't using it, I think is not the wisest. And so we're aware that it's there. We know that, and actually we encourage students or applicants to be working with people who know them well to review their essays. And so it's just another tool. And it's pretty obvious if someone's just using ChatGPT and has not, thought about it themselves. And we've run all of the questions through ChatGPT to educate ourselves as to what it would say.
Right, right. Also, I mean, the questions that you're asking, I don't think you'd have to do a lot of work with ChatGPT to get something reasonable out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, as I also, my colleague and I have talked a lot about this, Donna Levinson, who runs
Sure.
She and I both agree that it's making the interviews a lot more important.
Okay. All right, great. What are some, other than abusing ChatGPT, what are some common mistakes that applicants make in their applications to the MIT Sloan EMBA? And in this case, it could also be the Sloan Fellows program.
Yeah. I think if an individual wants to do themselves a service and us a service, it is showing their true self and sort of talking about their own experience. Don't share what you think we want to hear. Share about experiences in your past and dreams that you have that are true to you. And so the biggest mistake that I've seen is sort of this trying to put on an air or trying to be something that they're not. That comes through in an interview. And so that would be one of the biggest sort of faux pas that I've seen. I will also say, it still surprises me, but we get people who are not actually answering the question. And so I would go back to what I was saying a little bit earlier. I highly recommend that people use the opportunity of these applications as a way to reflect on who they are, how have they come to where they are today, how have the experiences that they've had sort of formed who they are today, and where do they want to go? Use this as a self-reflection and a self-awareness exercise. And I always get really excited when I hear from someone who has said, I really enjoyed the process. Whatever happens, like I feel good about what happened. I put my best self forward. But the exercise in doing the application felt very rewarding to the individual. And so I would encourage people to talk to people who know them well, whether it's a significant other or a mentor.
For sure. Great advice. Thank you so much for that response. I recently was reviewing an essay, and the applicant used 1/3 of the essay to talk about his father.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's not the right focus. It was nice. It was certainly lovely that he paid tribute to his father, but it wasn't. And the other essay was, I think, 1/3 of general stuff about challenges in healthcare. Again, it wasn't that it was wrong, but it wasn't reflective of him. It wasn't, other than the fact that he was interested in healthcare, and it wasn't personally revealing.
Yeah.
It was the wrong focus.
Right. Linda, I think those are two great examples of ways to sort of self-sabotage, to be honest, right? We want to get to know the individual.
Right. And I'm sure that the school that this particular individual was applying to, it wasn't MIT, knows a lot about the problems, the general problems in healthcare. I mean, in a third of an essay, you're not going to reveal anything that somebody at that school doesn't know.
Right.
You could maybe one sentence, then something about yourself.
Yeah.
You look like you have something very interesting in your head.
Well, I think it's interesting. It's less about what you know, right? That's actually not what we're trying to assess in the application process. It is who you are
Mhm.
and whether our degree programs can help you get to where you want to go next, right?
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Great response. What advice do you have for EMBA applicants preparing an application, or starting to think about it or approaching it or whatever?
Yeah. The year of 2024, I am committed to doing more journaling. And even in just these 18 days, I would say that would be my biggest recommendation is download the essay questions and start journaling on them. Don't try to create sort of the perfection off the bat, but let it percolate. The questions are not meant to be easy to answer. And that's not because we're trying to make it hard, but it's because we're really trying to get to know you as an individual. And so I would really recommend that. And then I know I already said this and maybe I'm repeating myself too much, but having conversation with trusted advisors and close friends, I think is a really great way of ensuring that what is showing up on the paper is a true reflection of who you are. And so my recommendation would be to write it, send it to people and see what they, or see how would they answer this about you is another way to sort of get feedback. And like I said, a lot of people have found a lot of value and learned more about themselves in the process.
Can I just add something to your comment
Please.
about journaling? A lot of times people will write down, I did this, and this, but they don't write why it's important. If you're going to be journaling, write what you learned from the experience, why you think it was important to journal about it, what was significant about it. Because again, sometimes people use examples and they don't say why you should care about it.
Right. It's such a great point. So I co-facilitated a reflection session for the Sloan Fellows last week. And one of the things that we talked about, as I shared, I'm trying to do more journaling. They asked me, am I doing the sharing what happened that day, or is it different kind of journaling? And it never crossed my mind to do the sharing what happened that day. That's not actually even what I'm writing about. It's more sort of what are some of the thoughts that are running through my head. And like you said, why are those the thoughts? How can I help process those? And who can I talk to? So, yeah.
Yeah. What do you see coming down the pike for these two programs? I mean, innovation is the middle name of MIT. I'm joking, but what's coming
Yeah.
that you can talk about?
Yeah. I mean, I think that one thing to know about both of these programs, and I think MIT in general, is that we're always tinkering. We get a lot of feedback from faculty, students, and staff to see what we need to be adjusting, what can we do better. And someone said, but Joe, they're already so great. And I said, that's right. I am very proud of both of these programs. And there's always room to try something new. I think one of the biggest interests that we're trying to do more of is connecting more to MIT and ensure that our students are learning more about the new technology and the new science that's coming out of this amazing institution. So that's one thing. We are continuously looking at how do we bring the Sloan Fellows and the EMBAs together. We currently run an elective on Thursday evenings before Friday and Saturday classes that is for both EMBAs and Sloan Fellows. Discovering Your Leadership Signature, which has been really popular. We're doing another one on macro now in the spring. And so there's a huge interest of these two populations to be spending more time together. And so we're looking at that. I will also say that we're trying to create more opportunities for Sloan and MIT students in general to interact. And then, I just had a meeting with the Leadership Center yesterday, so maybe it's sort of top of mind, but how do we take more advantage of the team settings that the students are in? And why I find these so interesting, it's sort of the action learning of emotional intelligence and relationship building. And so how do we create a feedback loop for students to give each other better feedback? We already have mechanisms to do this in some ways, and we have executive coaches who facilitate some of the team meetings to deepen the learning. But I think that's also my background, but still very much something that I'm hoping and see a lot of value for our students to get more out of. So more on that.
Okay, sounds good. What would you have liked me to ask you, or what would you like to talk about that we haven't discussed?
I think the one thing we haven't really talked about for either program is how special the community is. And so, it's perhaps understandable for the Sloan Fellows when you move your lives here for a year that you're going through this experience together. And it's just such an amazing community, whether it's celebrating the highs or supporting each other through the lows, or just, spending time together, getting to know the different cultures and seeing the kids get, become friends over the year. It's just absolutely amazing. And on the EMBA side, it is just as tight of a community. The students go through these courses together. And so they really get to know each other very deeply over the 20 months. And like I said, we just had 4 days worth of executive electives here last week, and the alums who came back feeling like they're coming home, and that has, of course, a very nice feeling associated to it. And but a lot of that comes from the learning community that they have and the community that they have with each other. So I think that's pretty special. And then, of course, the other piece that I always want to talk about is how proud I am of my students and alums who are living our mission. And so, developing principled, innovative leaders who improve the world. Had many opportunities over the last week to talk to students who've come back and shared what they're doing out there, whether it's something small or something big. Always so gratifying to hear how these programs are making them better leaders, better general managers, and feeling a responsibility to make this world a better place.
Sounds good. What a wonderful note to end on. Joe, I really enjoyed chatting with you and gaining a deeper understanding of MIT Sloan's 2 executive MBA options. Where can a listener learn more about the MIT Sloan EMBA and Sloan Fellows programs?
Well, thank you, Linda. It's been such a pleasure to join you again. So my recommendation would be to go to mitsloan.mit.edu. And then on the right-hand side, you see a drop-down menu for academics. And then on the right-hand side, there are the executive programs. And you can click through to whichever program is most interesting to you.
Sounds good. We're going to include links in the show notes at accepted.com/563 to the MIT Sloan Fellows and EMBA programs, as well as to some other resources that should be of use to you. Listener, thank you too for joining Joe Hising DiFabio and me for Admission Straight Talk's 563rd episode. If you find the show worthwhile, please subscribe. Make sure you don't miss any future shows, be they with admissions directors, professors, current students, test prep pros, or alumni doing great things. And a final reminder, download your copy of ACE the EMBA, Expert Advice for the Rising Executive from accepted.com/ACE EMBA. Now is a great time to get that free download. Again, it's accepted.com/ACE, ACE-EMBA, ACE EMBA. Thanks again for listening. This is Admission Straight Talk produced by Accepted, and I am your host, Linda Abraham. I'll talk to you again next week.